You got the touch. You got the power. Yeah!
Hello, true believers, and welcome to the first episode of my vlog, video podcast, whatever people are calling it these days. My name, in case you don't know, is Nathan Marchand, but you can call me Nate. And this is the first episode of what I hope to be a regularly occurring feature of my YouTube channel and my website that I like to call But I Digress. Here you can hear me give a few speeches, talk about things that I've been doing, in case you just don't feel like reading things on my website. And I figured, might as well put my YouTube channel to good use instead of just letting it sit there with, 3 videos? 2 of which are, one was a drawing for a free book, and the other one was me opening my books for the first time, and that was, 2 years ago? Yeah, might as well do something with it. So, today, for my first episode, I will be talking a bit more about Gen Con. Yes, I know, I've already written about all of my crazy adventures over at Gen Con, and by this point it's 2 months after the convention. So you might be wondering, Nate, why are you bothering with this? Well, it's because for all of you prospective writers out there, all of you aspiring writers out there, especially if you write speculative fiction, if you write science fiction, if you write fantasy, you're going to want to go to conventions like Gen Con because that is where your audience is going to be. That's where a huge chunk of them is going to be. If you go to bookstores or to libraries, it could be hit and miss. You go to conventions, they're all there. Trust me on that. So, I've compiled a handy-dandy little list here of some things I learned about how to sell books at conventions. Because trust me, it's a little bit different than going to your usual libraries or bookstores, stuff like that. You got to be a little bit more creative. It's a different audience, and you got to tailor to that audience. So, in no particular order, I'd like to go through those things. And hopefully there'll be enough space on this screen where I could put little captions indicating what each one of them is. So, for those of you who like to take notes, you'll be able to take notes. So, like I said, in no particular order, first one is use banners and or signs. I saw a lot of those while I was there. Most of them all huge. They were professionally done. They had cover art for the books on them, perhaps sometimes pictures of the authors, and they're probably expensive to make, but they are very eye-catching. They draw people's attention. They see you from, they'll see you from 30 feet away. They'll see something saying, "Here is the cover of my book, you should come talk to me." And you make them, they should be colorful, they should be big, and they can advertise from a distance. Just about everyone I saw had some, which was a disadvantage that I had. It was the first time I was there, and I just had a small handmade sign, which, mind you, looked really cool. It was made by my mom, my brother, and my sister, but compared to all the rest of them, it didn't look quite as professional. So I was a little bit disappointed with myself in that regard. The next thing to remember, number 2, freebies. Trust me, it will get people to come over. Even if they don't buy any books from you, offering people freebies will get them interested. It will get them over there and you can talk to them, hand them business cards, and that way they'll have an image of you, they'll know what your book looks like. Trust me, it will get people over there. And it could be something simple. It could be something everybody wants, like candy. There are people giving away candy. They had bowls of candy there. People could go in and reach for it. They're hungry. They've been at the convention all day. And they need a little bit of energy, so some sugar is good. So they can take the candy, pop it in their mouths, and they're satisfied. Or you could do what I saw some other writers there do, and you could actually have freebie tie-ins with your books. There was a woman next to me, Tammy Blackwell, who was selling urban fantasy. And what she did was she gave out a free sample chapter, the first chapter of her first book. And I'll tell you right now, I was there for 4 days, And there are people who would take a look at that sample chapter, just read a few sentences, and would be hooked like that. They would want to buy her book. So, that's one idea you can have. So, sample chapters. You do giveaways. Again, Tammy, who she's from Kentucky, and she knows people in the Kentucky Fried Gamers Guild. So, she had people put in their names in a pot to win free dice. Had nothing to do with her book, but since it was a gaming convention, again, tailor it to your audience. They would put their names in for that drawing and would get free dice. And strong possibility they probably bought her books too. So it's a good way to get people interested, even if your freebies have nothing to do with your books. But you can make it stronger by making them tie in with your books. So, third, gimmicks. Trust me, gimmicks work at conventions like this. People at conventions love gimmicks. And this is where you can really have some fun and come up with different ideas about what to do. And come up with creative ways to use these gimmicks to catch people's attention. And I don't mean just doing things like signs or giveaways. I mean, you go beyond that. This is the sort of things that I wasn't sure you wanted to do because you would want to look more professional while you were there to give a good impression. But actually, with the audience for speculative fiction, they love people who are crazy creative and do things out of the ordinary while they're there. And I saw there was a gentleman next to me. His name was Ed Russell. He wrote zombie books, and he had a T-shirt on with the tagline for one of his books, which was "You are the menu." That's one way to do it. So people, even when he was walking around away from his stand, people were seeing that and probably want to know what that meant. So they come up and they would talk to him. So even when he was away from his booth, he was getting people interested. The most interesting one that I saw is, I'm not kidding you, there were actually people there dressed in costumes. They were cosplay. There was a couple who wrote fantasy novels who was there. Their names unfortunately escape me right now. I'll probably have to put their names down in the notes. But they came every day dressed in some sort of medieval garb, whether they would be knights in chainmail, or an elf, or princess outfits. They always came in costume. So it would immediately tell people, I'm as nerdy as you are. You should stop over and talk to me and see my books. There was another writer there who dressed every day in sort of I want to say a Princess Bride style gown every day she was there, and she was selling her books. So, costuming. If you're good at it, if you're crafty and you like to make clothes, use this as a way to not only show off other creative things you can do, but do that. Or if need be, go buy a costume. Just do something. Cosplay works, like I said. There was another guy who was there. His gimmick was that he sounded like an auctioneer. You know those guys who talk really fast when they're selling stuff over at state fairs or something like that. And he was really fast with what he was doing. He could immediately figure out when someone was looking at his books and take a glance at you and figure out how to tie his spiel for the books in with what you was seeing in you. Very good at that. If you can do that, do it. Ed, the guy with the zombie books, also had a bunch of props that he would set up, decorations on his booth. The two most interesting ones is he had a puppet that could blow bubbles. It was a dog, and the dog's name was Bubbles. It was a character from his book, and every time someone would walk by, he had his hand inside of it, and there was a mechanism inside that he could push a button, and it would blow bubbles out. And that would immediately grab people's attention. He also had a replica, I don't think it was a mask, it was a head. It was a replica of the head of a zombie character from Day of the Dead. It was Bub the zombie, and he even had a hole cut inside of its head, and he would put candy in there and tell kids that they could reach in and grab the zombie's brains or something goofy like that. So, like I said, gimmicks work. Probably, if you get nothing else from me, remember that. Number 4, be sociable. When you're at a convention like this, especially one like Gen Con, there's going to be thousands of people walking through. So you have to grab their attention. You have to be conversational. You have to, don't just sit there and watch them go by. Talk to them. Say hello. Listen to what they're talking about, and use that to get, if you hear them talking to someone else, you use what they're saying as a way to draw them in and get them to look at your books. If you're selling zombie books and you overhear someone saying, "Oh, I really like this new zombie movie," or something like that, you say, "Hey, you like zombie movies? Hey, come see my books. Come take a look at my books," or something like that. And another way to do it is you'll see people walk by and they'll have these crazy t-shirts on. Say something about their t-shirts. Say something about their costumes if you recognize what character they are. And especially if it's an obscure character, because they'll be really impressed that you know who they are. Or if it's a character, or if they're dressed up, but it's not obvious that they're dressed up. There was a woman I saw who walked by who was dressed up as Lara Croft from Tomb Raider, but not a lot of people realized that she was actually cosplaying because her costume looks kind of normal. But I figured it out. And I said something, and that got her to come and talk to me for a few minutes. Say hello to people as they walk by, even if they don't say anything back and they just walk by. You never know. That next hello could be a sale. And smile. People like it when you smile. If you've read How to Win Friends and Influence People, that's a huge one. You smile. People like it when you smile. Alright? And whatever chat that you can start with somebody, with however you choose to do it, try to work the books and your products into there. Whatever you do. Number 5. Okay, I take it back. Gimmicks and this is another. If you get nothing else from me, these are probably the two most important things. I may add another one to that as far as I know looking through this once I start going through more of this list. So be prepared to put a star next to these things. Business cards. 2 words, business cards. I can't stress that enough. I made the mistake of not taking enough because I assumed I wasn't going to give that many out, or that people wouldn't necessarily want my business card if they've bought the book. There were actually a lot of people who came and they said, I'm interested in your books, but I don't have the money right now. Can you give me a business card? And I made the mistake of only taking about 20 or 25 business cards. Take a whole lot more than that. Take more than you need. Take 100, 200. I don't care. Just take a whole bunch of them. Because I blew through those 25 business cards fast. And had to resort to writing down my website and my email address and all this important information on pieces of paper that I had to tear out of a notebook. Don't do that. It's so much easier to just have the business cards and to hand them out. Trust me on that. Trust me. Alright, and now number 6. Network and promote. Now, while you'll be there, you hopefully will run into people who can help you out with promoting your books. Maybe not at the convention itself, but they can help you with promotion. While I was there, I was interviewed by a pair of guys who run a podcast called The Short Bus. And they interviewed me about my books, how I came up with my ideas, and all those sorts of things. Look for opportunities like that. I also ran into a reviewer who writes for Examiner. She's a book reviewer. She writes about fantasy and science fiction. I gave her free copies of my books to write reviews. So, while you're there, keep your eyes and your ears open for opportunities like that, because you never know when they'll come your way. Alright, and number 7. If you can do this somehow, if you're creative, if you're crafty, I should say, or you know people who can make these products for you, use this as another way to gain notoriety, and that's tie-in products. Again, going back to Ed, he sold tie-in products for his books. He had keychains that looked like brains, and he hung them up on on this little model tree, and people would see those and they'd take a look at them, and they would buy those. Maybe he was giving them away for free. I'm not sure, but seeing the brains hanging on the tree was an image that caught people's attention. They go over and they get that, and even if they didn't buy a book, but they had the brain there, they knew, oh, this guy writes zombie books. I should check these out later. Or I saw a few other writers who were selling fantasy books, and they were giving out jewelry as some sort of a tie-in product. Kind of like whenever a Lord of the Rings movie comes out, and they sell replicas of the One Ring with a necklace chain or something like that. Do that yourself if you're able to. And finally, number 8, take an assistant. That was a mistake I made. I went by myself, and I didn't take anyone with me. Most of the other writers there had someone else who would be there who could man their booth whenever they were gone. Maybe you have to go to the bathroom, and you certainly don't want to be away for 10 minutes because you could miss some customers while you're doing that. Or in my case, you're running off to get autographs from Nichelle Nichols or Will Wheaton, or going to Michael A. Stackpole writing seminars, and that takes you away from your booth for an hour and a half, something like that. And that's a lot of potential customers and potential new readers that you're missing out on. So, I highly recommend you take an assistant with you. I don't care who it is, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, brother, sister, friend, whoever. Take someone there with you who can watch the booth when you're gone. Or at the very least, provide some company while you're there. Even though you're surrounded by all these people, not all of them are stopping to talk to you. And yeah, you can do what I do. You can socialize with the other writers who are there, but they're also there to do a job, so you can't talk with them constantly. So, like I said, take an assistant. Alright, that's all I've got on here right now. So, I'm still kind of new at this whole vlog, video podcast thing. I'll be experimenting a little bit with backgrounds, with where to do it, with lighting, and I'm also going to be working a bit with subjects. I would love to get ideas from you, my viewers and readers, hopefully. If you want to hear me talk about something having to do with writing or creativity, or heck, if you want me to do something like review a movie or a book or something. If there's something you want to hear me talk about, I really want to hear your ideas. So, you can always leave me a comment on my YouTube channel, or on this video, on my website. I need more comments on my website. I would really like to have more comments on my website. Seems like a lot of people don't realize you can leave comments on my website. You don't even have to be a WordPress member to do that. So, that would be great. And I'll come up with some more topics. Hopefully this will be a regular thing, probably every 2 weeks. I'll see if I can get one like this out. And I would maybe try my hand at a few different things about what to do. Like I said, different subjects, different ideas. Stay tuned, you'll probably see a whole lot more. And thank you for joining me on the first episode of But I Digress.